Remember, Bosman, can you WhatsApp me your screen cover, please?
Good morning. I'm sure I can do that.
Because now you're chairing a meeting. Wind deflections. Can't hear you.
Good morning.
Oh, sorry.
Good morning, colleagues. Welcome to this Standing Committee meeting on social development. My name is Gillian Bosman and I chair this committee. I'm in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. I would also like to welcome all of our officials logged on today, as well as the guests joining us. Those are both guests from the South African Social Security Agency, as well as members of the NGO community that supports the vital work that is being done, and also members of the media and the public joining us live on the Western Cape Provincial Parliament YouTube channel. Just a reminder of the cardinal rules of online conferencing at the when you are not speaking. And if you would like to get the attention of the chair, please raise a point of order in the chat function if that's available to you. Or you can identify yourself by just saying that you have a point of order or any other interjection you'd like to make that is appropriate. Please also note that when you are speaking, you're welcome to use your mic and your video. But if you're not speaking and you don't want to have your video turned on, you're more than welcome to keep it off. For some of us in the far-flung parts of this province, sometimes the network is a bit patchy. I'm also going to ask that if you have to speak, when it's your turn to speak, if you can just wait about 0.5 seconds before speaking, just so that we're all able to hear you, because sometimes the bandwidth is quite slow. I'm going to also ask those colleagues from the South African Social Security Agency joining us, when you are making a presentation, please make sure that you flight your presentation in full screen mode and that you control the presentation. And then once the presentation is complete, please turn the presentation off. I'm now going to ask the members of the Standing Committee on Social Development to please introduce themselves for the record. We'll start with Member Van Voorgel.
Good morning, Chair and everyone. My name is Member Rachel Van Voorgel. Thank you.
Morning, Chairperson and members. I'm Wendy Philander.
Morning, Chairperson and members. Ricardo Mackenzie.
Good morning, Chair and members. Khalil Brankes.
Good morning, Chairperson Regan Allen.
I've noted all of the members present. Nomonde, I've received one apology from Member Ayanda Barnes. Nomonde, have you received any apologies?
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you. Member Van Voorgel, can I just check, are you standing as an alternate for Member Baku Force this morning?
I'm an alternate, yes, Chair, but Member Baku Force is trying to log in, Chair.
Okay, so Member Baku Force is going to join us.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Technically, you're an alternate, but in reality, you're a permanent member of our committee. We like you so much. We're going to claim you from health.
Yeah, Chair.
I'm now also going to ask that the officials from the South African.
Good morning, Chairperson and members of the committee. My name is Busiso Ntlangoti. I'm the new general manager replacing Mr. De Graan, who just left for retirement reasons. I will be doing the presentation, but I also want to take the opportunity to introduce our regional executive manager, who is also standing in for Mr. Makatuga while he is away. And I would like to give him opportunity through you, Chair, if you agree, just to introduce himself. He is my leader. He's the one who will be leading the team from SASA. And then after that, I will be doing the presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Slangothi.
Thank you very much, Michael. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and the Honorable Member. I am substantively the Chief Information Officer at the South African Social Security Agency in Pretoria. I'm currently acting in the Western Cape as the Regional Executive Manager to support the team while the incumbent is still away. Chairperson, I appreciate the opportunity given by the committee for us to come through. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mashlangu. Are there any other colleagues from SASA that's joining us?
Chairperson, there is also the head of the Office of the Regional Executive Manager, Clive Janssen. He is also part of the meeting for observing the proceedings and also taking every notes that are important so that we can respond appropriately to the committee when we are directed to do so. There's also Linda Denga, who's also the PA at the Office of the Regional Executive Manager. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Mr. Jansen and Ms. Denga. We know Mr. Jansen very well because he's our administrative interface, and he's the one that I call when I need to get hold of anybody when I can't get hold of them. I'm now also going to ask that our guests introduce themselves as well.
Good morning, Honourable Chair. My name is Betsy Nieuwoud. I'm the Director of Stel Care, Stel Sorg. We are a child protection organisation based in Stellenbosch, and we serve 2 districts, namely Cape Winelands with our SASA office in Paarl, and also Metro East with our SASA office in Eersterivier. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nieuwoud, and welcome. I see Arthur Guest. Are you able to identify yourself, please, sir? There's someone called Arthur Guest and then someone called Huda Guest. And if my memory serves me right, Huda Guest is from the Black Sash, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, good morning. It's Huda Abrams-Faker. I'm the National Advocacy Manager at the Black Sash. And thank you for remembering, Chair.
Thank you and welcome back, Ms. Faker. Are we able to get Arthur to introduce himself as well? Okay, we don't seem to have Arthur. Do we have anybody else online that have not introduced themselves that are a guest? Okay, I don't hear any indication. Can we also then have our colleagues from the Western Cape Provincial Parliament please introduce themselves?
Good morning, it's Makamba Boyja. Thank you.
Welcome,
Good morning, Member Bakubaku Force.
Member Bakubaku Force, who are both members of Parliament and members of this committee. Our procedural team, are you able to introduce yourselves?
Morning, members. Nomonde Jamke, Procedural Officer for Social Development and Health.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ben Daga. I'm the Senior Procedural Officer from the Western Cape Provincial Parliament.
Thank you very much to both Ms. Jamke and Mr. Daza. They are the wheels that keep this bus on the road. And we also want to say thank you very much to the mechanics who are joining us this morning as well from our IT department to make sure that we are able to do this remotely. Colleagues, as you know, the background to this meeting is a follow-up to the meeting we held on the 21st of January 2021, where we started to try and understand the absolute crisis that is taking place with the more than 53,000 temporary disability grants that all lapsed at the same time in December. And many members of this committee was inundated with calls from beneficiaries and also horrified by the long queues that were forming outside of SASSA offices. And we certainly wanted to understand what caused all of this and also what SASSA is going to be doing to deal with this. We've had several engagements with SASSA, both in this committee as well as offline. And some of us have visited the SASSA local offices as well. And we've seen how the staff there are trying to clear the backlog and how the staff is sometimes working under tremendous pressure. And what we resolved in our last meeting was to schedule a follow-up meeting that was supposed to happen 2 weeks after the 21st. And we also sent a correspondence to SASSA detailing the resolutions of this committee as well as the information requested. Unfortunately, SASSA could not meet with us last week because they had a pre-SONA roadshow with Minister Lindiwe Zulu, and we've now found this date for this meeting to take place. So this meeting is to get an update on the temporary disability grant application backlog in the province, and we're having this meeting in accordance with Section 115 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and Standing Rule 91D of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament Standing Rules. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to ask that the colleagues from SASSA, and it's been indicated that it's going to be Mr. Slangoti that's going to be delivering that presentation, that we quickly go through the presentation that was sent to us this morning at 6:30 a.m. And then we will get straight into the meat of the meeting, which is the question and answer session. Members, what I've also agreed with our procedural team this morning is that we are going to allow for any of the guests that are joining us to also pose any questions and make input, because we have received quite a substantive submission from Stelcare through their director, Ms. Nivert. So I'm going to hand straight over to you, Mr. Slangoti and Mr. Mashlangu. And the way this generally works, and we'd like to say a very special welcome to you. You're both new to our committee. What we'll do is we will allow you to flight the presentation, and we'll ask you to move through that. And then what we will do is we'll move into a question and answer session. And we generally have the meat of the discussion in that section of the meeting. And then once that is complete and members have exhausted their questions, we will then move on to where this committee makes resolutions or requests further points of clarity. And that last part of the meeting is generally where you don't have to participate. So I'm going to hand over to the colleagues at SASSA now, and we'll go straight into the presentation. Thereafter, we'll go to questions. Mr. Slangoti, you may go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Mr. Mahlang, you can start.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson.
And we appreciate
the
latest feedback.
Excuse me, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
Slangoti?
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody else in the room with you also connected to the meeting?
No, sir. It's just a guy from ICT who's helping me here in case there's a problem, but it's just a waiting.
Okay, we seem to have an echo.
Oh yes, my speaker was not muted. I apologize.
No, your speaker should be on, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute all participants, and then if you could just unmute yourself.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Mahlangu will be just doing an opening, quick opening, then.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. for the opportunity that we brief or report back to the committee. As I indicated, I will be the acting regional executive manager in this beautiful Western Province, originally based in Gauteng. Chairperson, I want to apologize on two fronts. One, my understanding that there was, it was not possible that we could have honored the invitation last week when the committee expected us to come and brief the committee. We apologize for that. And secondly, to apologize for the late submission. We just arrived yesterday, but I'm sure we will make sure that the administration and the support and secretariat does the work to submit the presentations or the reports that are required by the committee well ahead of time as required. We profusely apologize. Mr. Nkangoti will take us through the focus on the attempts by the by SASSA to resolve the issues that were identified in the province, particularly with regard to the lapsing of the temporary disability grant. He will allude to the 10-point plan that was developed as a mitigating action to deal with it. And I would want to also, at the end of the presentation, just recap a few points. Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson. Mr. Nkangoti, you can go ahead and present to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mahlangu. Once again, good morning, Honorable Chair. Good morning, members and colleagues and all the guests in the House. I want to take the opportunity to once again reintroduce me because, as the Honorable Chairperson indicated, it's the first time I appear before the committee. My name is Provincial. I am a general manager currently for the core business in the Western Cape. I have been with SASSA for the past 13 years. I was a general manager at head office responsible for payment nationally. So I was transferred to replace Mr. Dekra. I am a citizen of Western Cape. I've been in the Western Cape for the past 22 years. I've worked at SASSA as a district manager of the Metro. So I'm back. It's good to be back home. And I'm looking forward to contribute to the people of Western Cape with the responsibility that I've been given. Chairperson, I think since it is my first time, if you may allow me to just make a very short statement before my presentation, so that I make the committee understand our commitment to work together to change the plight of the people of Western Cape. I'm building my statement, my preamble statement on the Western Cape vision, which is an open society for all. The province pins its hope to achieve this vision through the well-crafted mission, which amongst other things commits to alleviate poverty by providing welfare safety net for those unable to provide for themselves. As SASSA, we are a national entity and an agent of social development, which through its vision aspires to be a caring and self-reliant society, and also relies on its mission to achieve this vision. The department's mission, amongst other things, commits to transform our society by building conscious and capable citizens through the provision of comprehensive, integrated, and sustainable social development services. As leadership of SASSA in the Western Cape, we understand very clearly our role as public servants. We are also mindful that while we are expected to take the cue from our department, social development nationally, we are also obligated to align ourselves with the vision of the province in order to better serve the people of Western Cape. I close my statement, Chairperson, by indicating to you that we will be directed by our mission to administer social security services to eligible children, older persons, and people with disabilities. We will do so guided by our values and as coined in the Constitution and in our values, which are transparency, equity, integrity, confidentiality, and customer-centric. I just thought, Chairperson, that I make that statement to the committee so that I affirm my commitment to work with the committee to change the plight of the Western Cape, people. As the presentation is slated there, The presentation today is about the progress made by Western Cape Regional SASSA in addressing the backlog for the temporal disability grant application in the Western Cape. Sorry, I'm trying to. I will need just assistance. My presentation is not moving. Guy is assisting me. Just a second, colleagues, I apologize. The presentation is not moving.
No problem. We are used to being sticky.
Thanks, but the guy is working on it now. Presentation is not moving. Okay. All right, go to this. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. All right. Please don't move funny. Thank you, Chairperson. Since everything is sorted. The purpose of the presentation, the layout of the presentation will deal with the purpose, the introduction, the progress made in eradicating backlog, update on virtual or folder assessment. I'll talk to it when I come to the 10-point plan, the stakeholder relations, our main concerns, conclusion and recommendations. I will deal with the purpose. The purpose of the presentation is to update the Standing Committee on Social Development in the Western Cape on progress made by SASSA Western Cape in respect of lapsed temporary disability grants in the Western Cape. Previous presentation, as the Honorable Chairperson indicated, on the 21st January 2021, SASSA provided an overview and placed in context the lapsing of more than 214,000 grants, temporary disability grants and care dependency grants in the country. Of the 214,000 lapsed grants, 52,000 TDGs and 999 CDGs were in the Western Cape. It also provided the overall management plan and interventions to address the backlog challenges. Today's presentation, Chairperson, serves as an update to the Steering Committee on the progress made in eradicating the backlog on the TDGs in the province. The progress made thus far. A cross-functional project was established to manage and monitor the project effectively. One of the tasks of the project was to monitor and provide a weekly report to the regional executive manager, our CEO, and the national minister, and also the MEC of the province, Mrs. Fernandez. The last report was provided to the steering committee. Reflected the statistics as at 21 January 2021 and indicated the interventions that would be undertaken to address the challenges. The statistics provided in this presentation reflects the status of the province and statistical information per district in terms of the following. Original total as per the start of the project, clients booked for assessment, clients already assessed, updated remaining totals, and the number of applications taken thus far. I continue with the progress made. In the beginning, we reported to the steering committee that Western Cape had 52,323 temporary disability grant suspensions, which was the highest number in the country and still is the highest number. We also reported that 64% of this number was concentrated in the Cape Metro. The number of care-dependent grants was 999. Like most institutions, Chairperson, SASSA is not operating on its full capacity due to officials working from home for different COVID-related reasons, either comorbidities or due to limited space in offices. It's a national or maybe international challenge that is faced by the world as we speak. This happened against the backdrop of the agents having to ensure that its limited resources are to be split between the TDG project and clients visiting our offices for other grant types. For example, the care dependency grants, the CSG, which is the child support grants, the old age grants, and other grant types that we administer in the agency. While most offices in the metro are flooded with TDG beneficiaries since January 2021, Athlone, Belleville, Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, Mitchell's Plain, and ESC Refill have always been regarded by us as our hotspot areas. I need to say, Chairperson, that in addition to those areas, we have also added Atlantis because it also became a hotspot area in a later stage. Even though we still experience queues at our offices, we are pleased to report to the Standing Committee that queues in our offices are now manageable, and it is not necessary to make appointments as we assist clients on the first visit in some of the offices. And I want to stress some of the offices. Honorable Chairperson and members, this is a picture of the whole province per district. This is the statistics, and I would like to draw your attention to the last part, to the bottom part of the spreadsheet where it says Western Cape. The other areas deals with each district. We have 5 districts, but the total at the bottom is total for all the districts for the entire province. We started at 52,323, and then we went down to 48,027 after the agency decided to reinstate some of the grants which we regarded as vulnerable grants. And then the clients that we've booked for assessments thus far are 37,171. And then we have managed to assess already 16,569. The remaining clients still to be assessed is 31,458. And then the applications taken is 9,740. The number, if I may go back a little bit on the remaining assessments, the number 31,458 may look high, but I will talk to it at a later stage so that maybe I will alleviate the concern from the members that why that number is there and what is a picture as we speak. The update on virtual folder assessments. Metro Health has made 64 doctors available to conduct virtual assessment, and all doctors have been trained by SASSA. Just a little bit of a refresher there, Honorable Chairperson. We had an engagement with Dr. Perez, who is responsible for the deployment of doctors, to say what can they offer us that can contribute to the alleviation of this challenge. And a suggestion of a virtual or folder assessment was made to say, based on the experience and the knowledge and expertise, it may not be necessary for all the clients to physically come and see the doctor. If they can have the records of the clients, they can do the folder assessment, and then it won't be necessary for the client to come. Only if when they feel that the information that is on the folder is not sufficient for them to make a decision, they can call the client to visit the office. We welcomed that, and then we checked it against our policy. We found that it is in line with our policy. Dr. Perez from the Metro Health promised to give us 25 doctors, but he over-delivered from his promise, and he gave us 64 doctors, which we have already trained, and we appreciated that very much. During our discussion with Dr. Perez, we reached the following resolution, that now that the doctors have been trained, let us take this approach and put it on pilot last week. The virtual full assessment approach to be first piloted at 2 health institutions on 25th and 26th February 2021. That was last week, Thursday and Friday. The 300 cases were completed by 3 doctors, which equates to 50 assessments per day per doctor. The pilot was successful, and with the rollout, it is estimated that each doctor will complete a minimum of 250 virtual assessments per week. The virtual assessment was rolled out across the metro and from the beginning of March, which is yesterday on Monday. Now, you will recall, Chairperson, that I said I will speak to the 31,000 that was looked a little bit high. As we speak, there is a figure that we have not yet received from Dr. Perez's doctors, taking into consideration that the 26th and the 25th, there were virtual assessments happening yesterday, and today as we speak, the virtual assessments are continuing. Since we get the statistics on a weekly basis, when we get that statistics on Thursday this week, the picture will be completely different, and the 31st of March, which we have set as our deadline to finish all assessments, will definitely be met if we are to, as we have just adopted this virtual assessment. That's what I wanted to clarify, so that that number of 31,000, although it seems high, it is a number that does not concern us much since we've adopted the virtual folder assessment. In January 2021, the region developed a 10-point plan to address the management of the lapsed TDGs in Western Cape. Interventions in terms of the following have been developed and implemented. Improved queue management. Extra staff has been assigned to help manage the queues from 6 o'clock in the morning. The NDA and the City of Cape Town volunteers available to assist until the queue management is manageable. All applicants provided with appointments for medical assessment and applications. The 8 local offices in the metro will secure venues where the disability grant applicants can be served 5 days in the week with dedicated team. Some of the venues are in use, Strand Civic and Delft Civic as example hereof. Increase operating hours on DG days and Saturdays through implementation of overtime for staff at local offices. The Provincial Department of Health has been approached for extra doctors and space to accommodate any additional SASSA contracted doctors. 33 doctors were availed by Department of Health for this purpose all over the province. The payment of social relief grants of social relief of distress through the private bank accounts of qualifying applicants has been operationalized. Securing additional SASSA contracted doctors. Supply chain management forwarded invitations to approximately 500 doctors in the Western Cape to register on supplier database. To date, an additional 18 doctors have been contracted, while the process continues to contract more doctors. On that one, Honorable Chairperson and members, we have sent out the expression of interest, and doctors, as indicated, they show interest, but the problem that we are confronted with is that some doctors do not qualify in terms of supply chain processes. Some do not want to work at rural areas, but we are making very good progress as we speak, because we know now that all our rural areas are covered, and the doctors that are not qualifying, our supply chain assist them, our supply chain department assists them to meet the requirement of the National Treasury. Identification of SASSA hotspots for the placement of additional doctors, regular updating of the electronic medical assessment database to track the number of medical assessments completed, maintaining separate days for the older persons and child support grants, and improve communication with clients, stakeholders, and counselors. In addition to utilize the community radio stations to continue with the enhanced communication. Chairperson, I've indicated earlier on that we have to split our resources to make sure that we don't get swamped by this TDG grant and ignore other grant types. We also have a responsibility to make sure that people who are coming to our offices to apply for other grant types are also taken care of. Hence, we have separate days for child support grants, older age, and other grants. But I want to say that in this period, we are a little bit biased towards the TDG. We, even on the days where we take other types of grants, we still also accommodate TDG clients who come for assistance. Then I come to the revised 10-point plan. 10-point plan was developed as an effective tool to mitigate influx challenges created by the lapsed TDGs in SASSA offices. The 10-point plan was in the main developed to ease pressure at SASSA offices through effective management of queues, protect SASSA staff and clients from COVID-19 infections, comply with COVID-19 regulations, provision of dignitary services to clients, and to ensure that clients do not wait too long on queues before they are serviced. Based on our assessment, Chairperson, we are of the view that we have managed to implement about 90% of the 10-point plan elements. The following represents some of the elements of the 10-point plan implemented already. The appointment system, extended office hours through overtime, purchased extra chairs and loud hailers, secured additional doctors to do folder assessments, contracting of doctors is ongoing, secured venues from the City of Cape Town and other elements are already implemented. We are very pleased with such progress as SASSA, and it is our view that what is already in place must now be maintained. As a result, we are now working on a revised 10-point plan. And I also need to give the feedback on thus far. We had a meeting between SASSA, Belleville management. Since Belleville was one of the worrying sites, we invited the Human Rights Commission, the Black Sash, and the management of Belleville. During that meeting, a follow-up meeting was agreed upon where the GM, Grant Administration, myself, was supposed to come back and give a full picture of the region, of what's happening before the two stakeholders, which we regard as very critical. A follow-up meeting with myself was held as promised in the previous meeting, and I provided a regional perspective and update on the TDG project. There was also a commitment between all parties that a joint communication pamphlet should be developed so that we update clients and stakeholders on what is happening in the ground and how the process is working. We have managed to do that jointly with our stakeholders. The pamphlet has been developed, and we're still checking it against our SASSA communication protocols, that it is in compliance, so that by the time we go out, we communicate something that our clients and stakeholders will understand. Chairperson, I have also crafted just few of our concerns, and not to say that these concerns are maybe aimed at blaming anybody, but it's just for the committee to take note, because we are working on a very critical project that affects the lives of the people. The attendance of clients missing appointments impacts negatively on the project timelines and might have financial implications. What I mean there is that when we book a client with the doctor, and the doctor make time for the client, and the client page the client fails to honor the appointment, the doctors may come back and say they want to charge us for that. But we also understand, Chairperson, that there may be very different reasons why clients do not honor appointments. Some of them, it may be maybe the means of getting to the doctors. Some of them may be on, remember this is a TD, is a temporary disability grant, maybe health-related reasons. So we understand that, but we said let us just put, just for the committee to note, of offices not operating at full capacity due to COVID protocols and implications. We were very pleased when the president announced the alert level 1 that we are now going to get most of our staff to come back to offices. Although that is recorded as a concern, there is improvement there. The incidents which are elevated to political office bearers with no substance, like the incident of Kukuletu, incidents like these take much of our already depleted resources and consume time. If I may just spend a few minutes there, just 1 or 2 minutes. We, from time to time, will receive a complaint either from the Member of Parliament, from our Minister, from the MSC, from anybody, from the stakeholders. And when we receive such complaints, we must act immediately. We can't wait and investigate the matter tomorrow. But as we act, we must take from the resources that we are using to assist in trying to deal with the backlog. And most of the time when we investigate, we find that maybe the case is not as it was reported. But we understand that sometimes a person comes and gets frustrated and then it elevates, and the politicians are representatives of the people. They cannot sit back, they will have to make a follow-up. I've put an incident of Kukuletu there because it is a recently reported incident where we were told, we got from our minister, she received a complaint through the MEC that people in Kukuletu, appointments were made and then they were not attended to during the appointment days, and the office manager was rude to our clients. So we had to act immediately. And then when we got there on Thursday last week, we found that and the people that we already made appointment for, and then they did not honor the appointment. And then they came on the day when it was not a disability grant day, but it was a child support day. But the office indicated to them to say, we are going to help you, but you don't have appointment today, so we will help you at the end when we start with overtime at 4 o'clock. We need to deal with people that are having appointments today. But the clients did not like that, and then that's where everything goes wrong. But we managed to resolve the situation. I just felt it's important that I raise with the committee. In conclusion, Chairperson, I would like to assure the Standing Committee that since the matter arose at our offices, we have been working hard trying to ensure that our people are served with maximum respect and dignity. We have since doubled our effort and wish to indicate that we welcome constructive criticism from our principals and our partners. We also appreciate support from our stakeholders in the form of suggestions or resources in order for us to ensure that we uphold the constitutional rights to dignity of Western Cape citizens. We want to recommend that the Standing Committee take note of the progress made and the current status of the Temporary Disability Grant project in the Western Cape. And I want to thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I will hand over to my Executive Manager to fill the gaps, and then we'll hand over back to the Honorable Chairperson. I thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ntango.
Thank you, Mr. Ntango.
Chairperson, through you. Through you, Chairperson. Thank you, Mr. Ntangoti. I just wanted to add, Chairperson, and echo the sentiments that the General Manager has made with regard to our commitment to partner with our political oversight, such as the Standing Committee and the other interest groups and the NGOs that are available, to try and attend to the plight of our people in whatever way and innovation that we can use. Just to add on what Mr. Ntlangoti was saying, we are busy at the moment developing a front end and a back end system to try and make the online booking, in other words, reservations of slots by the grant, disability grants, grant in aid, and care dependency grants. Those are the grants that necessarily need appointments to be made. We are developing a system where the people that have got access to technology or through their cell phones, quite a number of cell phone types will be able to be used to be able to schedule online booking for their slot. Now, how this will work is that they will be able to log onto a platform, a progressive web application platform, and then they will be able to access the schedule of the doctor in the back end, and then be able to choose a date. And if that date is not available, or the time slot in the calendar of the doctor is not available, it will the person will be given other options. It means time slots, etc. And that, we believe, will help to ease off the need for people to come and queue at our offices. We are just busy with the system is actually ripe. We will be able to present the status of its implementation. And also in that particular system, we are also building the capability to can cancel an appointment should the circumstances of the beneficiary or the client change. And therefore, that will also assist the situation such as that one of Kukuletu, and or any other change of circumstances by our beneficiaries. We are also looking at the pre-notification using the other social media platforms. Pre-notification simply meaning that a person will be advised well in advance to say, your temporary disability grant is expiring in a matter of X number of months. Exactly what is it that they should be able to do, and this will put as well on the website. This will also assist people that when they embark on the process of booking for assessments, they already know what is it that they should bring along, so that where possible, people come and they are served and the cycle is completed on first visit. And lastly, Chairperson, the issue of no-show by our beneficiaries, whereas Mr. Ntlangoti has indicated that we accept that our people might be, having other circumstances, we take note of that. In fact, in the online booking system, we have made about 40% for walk-ins. In other words, when the system is going to be live, we'll also make provision for those that will be just walking, cold calling, and we'll accommodate them through a percentage split, so that when we're at 40% or so for walk-ins that do not necessarily have a schedule in the doctor's appointment, and that will be factored in the planning, daily planning of the local office manager. Lastly, Chairperson, we have a commitment that we have made that with about 115 doctors that are now at our disposal to assist both with physical assessment and virtual or paper-based assessments, we should be able to meet the target of finalizing all the backlog of the assessment and proceed into doing the applications, at a reasonable rate. Chairperson, we want to thank you for the opportunity. I hand back over to you.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you to both yourself and Max. I want to start off by maybe asking up front if you could tell us what is the best way for this committee to communicate with SASSA, because the failure to respond on time to the committee and to our procedural staff is a major concern and inconvenience for us. Because as you can imagine, for us to negotiate these meetings, we have to approach the Western Cape Provincial Parliament's Programming Authority. Once we are granted a meeting, it generally means that we're taking a meeting away from another committee that also wanted to conduct their work of oversight. And if SASSA responds the day before or a few hours before a scheduled committee date, that really puts us as a committee of parliament in a very difficult situation, because we've now taken up a slot on the parliamentary calendar, and now we can't use that slot. And the correspondence we received from SASSA for the last meeting to indicate that they won't be able to participate because the minister is going to be in town. It happened the day before, and we had to then invite the Provincial Department of Social Development at the last minute to come and address us on what they are doing. And that also called to consider responding to our emails in time and our requests for information. SASSA is one of the only agencies where it takes months for SASSA to submit information to this committee. And I sincerely hope that by the end of today, we'll have a clear protocol in place for how this committee needs to communicate with SASSA. And the protocol that we've been using is every letter that we send goes both to the regional SASSA management, it goes to the national SASSA CEO, and it goes to the political head responsible for SASSA, Minister Lindiwe Zulu. We very rarely receive feedback from the minister, and the only feedback we've received from the national CEO of SASSA has been to say, deal with the provincial colleagues. I don't report to your committee, I report to the national minister. And we've done that. And I accept your apology on behalf of this committee for the tardiness so far. But I really want you to just clarify to us, what is the best way to communicate? Who do we communicate with at SASSA Western Cape so that we do get a response to emails on time and within a professional and courteous manner, not months after we've sent it, and sometimes not a few hours before a committee meeting is scheduled. Because one of the things that we are trying to do is we're trying to represent our constituents across this province, and we get messages and WhatsApp from people at all hours of the night. And we try and make sure that we give those people feedback through the work of this committee. So please, I'd like to ask if you could just tell us what that protocol is going forward. I know that the two of you have just stepped into these positions due to retirement and due to internal HR issues. And we sincerely hope that the team is going to sort of work smoother than we have before. We've had a wonderful relationship with Mr. de Graaff, but it seems Mr. de Graaff didn't always have the support, and I hope that he's going to get some rest in his retirement as well, because we always received responses from Mr. de Graaff on time. But I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to hand over to members to jump right into the questions. I've noted Member Mackenzie's hand was up, and then also the Honourable Rachel Windvogel hand was up after that. So I'm going to hand over to Mr. Mackenzie and then to Madam Windvogel. Mr. Mackenzie?
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentation to the officials. If we can go to slide number 7, Chair, because that's where most of my questions will be. And if we don't mind, if you can get it on the screen, because then it's easier, then I don't have to toggle between my screens,
Okay, honorable member.
Others, I can go straight.
Yes.
On slide number 7, thank you again.
Okay.
And thank you for the numbers. Just please assist me to understand. When we're talking about the applications. Chair, I can hear myself.
Mr. Mackenzie, there's just an echo.
Much better, thank you. On slide number 7, which is my slide number 7 that I got from the email presentation, on the applications, now we know that the 52,000 at the time was the original ones that started. The total after reinstatements is 48,000. That's 4,000 less. Can I just get an understanding, where is that 4,000? That'll be the first question. Or why is the difference between the original 52,000 and the 48,000? Was that ones that didn't even qualify for assessments? If we can just get an understanding. And then of the remaining assessments, I appreciate that you've given us some timelines here on one of the slides going forward. On the actual TDG applications, the 9,450, can you assist us in understanding is that those ones still need to be approved because the ones that are booked, one can understand, sorry, it needs to be booked obviously for assessments, and then the assessments need to be done by the doctors obviously. But on the ones that has been, the applications that was done, the 9,470, has those been approved? Where is that in the process line? If one can have an understanding, and the timeline in getting those approved and finalized, and the communication with the individuals. It's nice as people have been booked and assessed, and well done on getting it this far, but there's a point where people who's waiting is going to get frustrated, and we don't want to see what happened outside Belleville a few weeks ago. So we can get an understanding with the 9,470, where are they in the process, and by when will the clients get feedback? And on the new doctors, and I need to go to the slide, that you've signed up, I'm happy that the online assessments seem to be going well. Is there a timeline, because you estimated 250 a week, when the 38,000, are we looking at end of March, end of April? And until when will these individuals be paid before you finalize the actual application, so that these people know where they are in the process? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Mackenzie. Member Windvogel.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I welcome the presentation, and I must say the team has done well under very difficult circumstances. But I really want to understand, why are we in this mess in the first place? That's my first question. I want to know from them, why are we in this mess? And then, Chair, I also want to know from SASSA if they can tell me the applicants who did not receive their grant since December, and they are now approved, will they be paid backdated? And then my last question, Chair, the rural areas, how are they going to deal with the visiting points in the rural areas? For example, their staff members arrive 11 o'clock at those visiting points and then pick up 2, 3. Now, just imagine old people, sick people are sitting since 4 o'clock, and the officials only arrive at 11 o'clock, pick up around, let's say, past 2 to 3. So I want to know, how are they going to deal with this issue? Thank you, Chairperson.
Sorry, I was on mute there. I thank you, Member Windvogel. I see Member Allen and then Member Brunkhuis.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chairperson. In terms of my questions, I firstly would want to agree with your remarks in terms of a clear line of communication, because even though I have submitted questions for clarity or just questions to very capable procedural officers, we are yet to get any response from SASSA. So thank you for highlighting the fact that there needs to be a clear communication line between the committee as well as and with SASSA. To dig into the questions, and Chairperson, forgive me if I sound a bit confused, as I don't necessarily serve on social development, but as a constituency in the metro, is SASSA able to, firstly, will they deploy additional staff members to offices across the province to assist with beneficiaries? I'm not sure if I heard that correctly. I know it was mentioned that staff are coming back, but will additional staff also be appointed? But also if there can be clarity on the deadline for the end of the month, whether we are hearing that all applications will be processed but also it was interesting to hear that that there is still refusal to go to certain rural areas from any professional person for that matter, and in this case it's doctors. But has there been any engagement from SASSA's side to engage these doctors around the deployment? But then I would also like to ask, and forgive me for this, Chairperson, is it possible to get like a step-by-step guide on the virtual assessment, how it actually works? If I'm, for example, a recipient of a social grant and I don't have clear understanding what I need to do, how I need to do it, if that can be provided, or if SASSA could just speak to it in practical terms, if a grant recipient should renew his or her application. But then just one last question, Chairperson, regarding the temporary disability grant. I'm understanding that can't be done virtual via a virtual assessment, and the person can book a online assessment. Can SASSA just speak to how that actually works if I need to go tell a recipient this is exactly what you need to do and how to do it? Thank you.
Thank you, Member Allen. Member Brancos.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, first of all, we want to welcome the presentation by the SASSA official. And I just have one very short question. If the SASSA official can give us a timeline by which the number of doctors will be increased. As I heard, at the moment, the number is on 18 doctors that is currently active doing the medical assessments. So if the official can give us a timeline by when the number of doctors will be increased so that the medical assessments can be, that process can be speeded up. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member. I'm also now noticing Member Makamba Boycha. Ma'am, you may go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm sorry, I might have missed out on the meeting that was held previously on this particular matter, but I just want to find out from Mr. Ntlangothi on slide number 6, where it's made mention that Western Cape had the highest number of the TDG suspension cases, which amounted to 52,323. So my question is that, can the department give us a synopsis of what led to such a number of cases specifically in the Western Cape? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Member Makamba Boycha. Then just a few questions from my side. I just want to know, so again, if you could maybe just tell us how many SRD vouchers have been provided to temporary disability grant recipients. We were told the last time that those whose grants are still being assessed or those still waiting for appointments, they're able to apply for a 500 Rand social relief of distress grant voucher. So I wanted to know how many of those have been issued in the Western Cape. And then again, if you've got 115 doctors at your disposal, how are you going to assess the 31,458 applicants before the end of March? And then if we could get a copy before the end of this meeting of the pamphlet that has been developed by SASSA to communicate with grant recipients, because that is something useful to send out to the people that are contacting us as well. And then I'm not sure if I heard Mr. Mashlangu correctly, and maybe you must just correct me as did you say that since the announcement that the president made on Sunday night that the country is now moving to coronavirus alert level 1, that SASSA will be operating at 100% capacity in terms of staff? And then also, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that you've told us that you are also the Chief Information Officer of SASSA nationally. Are you able to tell us what is the beta go live date or the final go live date for the appointment system for the temporary disability grants. I'm going to hand over to SASSA to respond to that round. And then I'm pretty sure there's going to be a follow-up round from members. And then once the members have exhausted their questions, I'm going to give our colleagues from the NGO sector joining us an opportunity to also pose some questions. So I'm going to hand over to Mr. Mashlangu and to Mr. Slangoti.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and to the honorable members for the comments, but also for their questions that are seeking clarity. I will go first and answer a few of those, and others, Mr. Ntlangoti, will take them. Chairperson, the first question you asked was about the communication protocols or the best way to reach out and get expected responses from SASSA. I think, Chairperson, with regard to the issues of meetings, I have not seen the itinerary of these meetings. I would want to believe that once I lay my hands on the itinerary of these standing committee meetings, I will make sure that those are reserved, and really it will be under exceptional circumstances that there should be a waiver of non-attendance, or why is it that the meeting cannot take place. So, Chairperson, I would definitely agree with one, having the calendar or the itinerary of this scheduled meeting between us and this honorable committee, so that we make sure that it is not confused or never replaced by any other, because we view it as equally important as an oversight committee. And with regard to the letters being sent, I agree that protocol should take precedence. When I am copied, I would know that I will immediately have to action the particular request. Those that are outstanding so far, Chairperson, I would definitely like to follow them up straight after this meeting, because I have not really had access to the pending correspondence between us and this honorable committee. But I do commit that I will look at the standing or pending matters between us and the committee and make sure that within this week, I definitely respond to the committee or make sure that I provide what was asked. If there is a reason why that cannot be done, I will also be explicit as to what the reason could be. So I will definitely do that, Chairperson, with regard to any outstanding matter that there could be, if through the secretariat of the committee, perhaps a refresher note on whatever is outstanding, I would really appreciate that, but I'll also check with my office here. So the issue of letters going to the National Minister, COPI CEO, and myself, but I will not wait for the other processes. I'll make sure that once there is a letter requesting either a meeting or requesting information, my duty is to immediately action that particular request. I hope that the miscommunication or the delay in communication should be nipped in the bud and should not recur going forward, Chairperson. My apology once again. With regard to slide number 7, Mr. Ntlangoti will answer those questions there. I would want to delve to a question that was raised with regard to the repurposing of staff, as to say, will there be additional staff being sent to offices? What we are going to be working on with Mr. Ntlangoti, and he can add as well, is that we are going to look at our monitoring and planning to say if we anticipate, like he has identified already, that there are hotspots, the areas that are indicated as hotspots, we should have a flexible way of repurposing our staff or our resources to make sure that there is assistance in areas where there is overloading in terms of work in those centers or in those offices there. But Mr. Ntlangoti can add as well there. And with regard to the last question that the honorable member has asked, when is the beta go live? Chairperson, as I was in reporting with the conceptual design of this particular system. We believe that in the next 2 months, we should be able to put the system into test. But we can break down the highlights of the, as we report regularly to the committee, how far we are. But we expect in the next 2 months, we should have a pilot happening in the Western Cape. We believe that it will be pioneered here in the Western Cape, this online booking system, Chairperson, as an attempt to use technology to alleviate the queues in our offices. Mr. Ntlangoti, you can take the other technical questions and clarity-seeking questions that the honorable members have asked. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairperson. I want to indicate that I've tried to capture everything that was asked. In the event that maybe I may have missed out, if I may be advised, so I will try. Let me start by maybe adding to what the executive manager has just indicated in terms of us not honoring either appointments or the correspondence that we're supposed to be submitting. And I could read, understandably so, the frustration from the Honorable Chairperson. And once again, in addition to the apology presented by the Regional Executive Manager, I want to apologize and just state 2 reasons. One, the changing of guards that has been happening in us, Mr. Makatuga leaving, Mr. Mahlangu taking over, Mr. De Gra leaving, me taking over at the time when there was this chaos in the TDG, really has impacted very bad in the functioning of the office. And we understand that the concern raised by the Honorable Chairperson is justified. On the issue of us not honoring the meeting that was planned, I just want to say that yes, we really also once again apologize and maybe state the reason that we also did not know the visit of the minister. And if the national minister comes to the region, we have no option but to prioritize that, not to say that the steering committee is not important, but he was also coming for the very same issue of the TDGs that are happening in offices, and we had also had to go to give him some reports, and we really found ourselves in a predicament. I apologize that the request to not to came late. I just wanted to add on that one, and I'm not going to spoil what the regional executive manager said. Will abide as he said. And there was a question around what brought the 52,332 down to 48,000. When this problem started, we set as SASA to say, what are the quick wins? What are the things that we can do to ensure that we alleviate this problem? Anything that will help to minimize the queues in offices. Then we sat down, and head office decided to say all those grants that we regard as vulnerable grants, we need to reinstate them. The vulnerable grant will be if a person is 59 years, they will automatically, when he turns 60 or when she turns 60, will qualify for an old age grant. Now, if we receive today a temporary disability grant, and in the next few months it's going to turn 60, we said let's reinstate those grants, that grant. It's not important for the person to go and queue in office because he will be our permanent client in any way. There are also the grant that is received by a client through a procurator, where a client appoints someone to look after the grant because maybe he's unable to do so because of health conditions. We thought that grant will stay like that for at least some time. We reinstated those grants. We reinstated also those people who are receiving grants and have people who are receiving grants in aid. Grant in aid is when somebody is assisting the person who's receiving the grant because the person maybe is a very old or is a very sick person. So we also said that that grant must be reinstated because that person the condition might not change as soon as, so there's no need for those people to reinstate those grants. And the other grant type that we also said we wanted to reinstate were those grants that are received by clients through administrators. An administrator is appointed where a person is unable to manage his or her own grant because of many reasons. For example, he received a grant today, he drinks all the money, is unable to manage grant effectively. So we appoint an administrator to make sure that he manages the grant, he gives him or her what he needs at the time. We reinstated all these grants, and nationally they came to the figure of 16,000. Western Cape benefited 4,000 of this national figure. So that brought down the figure from 52,000 to 48,000. I think I've answered that. Then there was a question about the approved grants. That what does the approved column means? Does it mean those guys still need to be approved? Or what we do in SASSA, once the client come to the office for application, by all means we try to make sure that the client leave the office with a letter indicating that grant is approved and when will it be paid, or because of other processes that we do, the means test and everything, the grant is not approved. So the approved section means that those are the grants that are already in payment because they are approved. And then the client, okay, that's fine. Then there was a question, why are we in this mess? Honorable member, what happened when the president announced the first level 5, alert level 5 of the lockdown? Maybe to answer that question, I need to take a step back to say a temporary disability grant is part of a disability grant. Disability grant is divided into two. There is a temporary disability grant that is valid for 6 months, and after 6 months, a client must go back to the doctor, the grant lapse. The client must go back to the doctor to say, for the doctor to assess and say, your health condition has improved. You can now maybe go seek employment, or or the doctor says you still need to receive the grant because your health condition has not improved. It is called a temporary disability grant. The other one is a disability grant that is permanent and it's only reviewed after 12 months. It's for people that are really having the serious sickness that are not likely to change. But the temporary disability grant or any type of disability grant is only for health, is take for health reasons, for people who are unable to provide themselves. It is not for people who do not have employment, people who have maybe, although it's a health-related grant, it's not people who have chronic illness like your blood pressure, your gout, your things that you can still live your normal life with, but it's for people who are sick in such a way that they are unable to really look after themselves. That's why we always want, the policy says that we must look, we must get the opinion of a medical specialist. Now, during the alert first level 5, the first lockdown, there was a number of interventions that different departments made. As SASSA, there were decisions that were taken. One of the decisions was to increase the old age grant, the child support grant for a certain period, and also on the type or on the side of temporary disability grant, we said all those grants that were supposed to lapse, we were not going to lapse them, even though they have reached their time of 6 months. We will continue to pay them. So we continued. There was also another extension when they were continued for 6 months. There was also another extension to say they need to go up until December. And then December, a decision was that the government said we cannot continue anymore. So all those grants were lapsed. And the people, they came back to offices in numbers to reapply, as they would normally do when their grant lapse after 6 months. But this time they all came at once. From January, they just flocked our offices. That is how we found our situation. We found ourselves in this situation. There was a question to say, when is the grant paid? Is it paid? Can these people be paid backdated, if I may say? No, unfortunately, honorable member, the grant is only paid from the date of the application. Once the application is taken and is approved, then we pay the grant from that day. And then the question around the rural areas. What we did, honorable member, was that we approved over time for all the offices who are experiencing high influx. And then our office hours start at 8 o'clock, at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then finish it close at 6 o'clock in the evening. Some offices like Kailisha, and others sometimes close at 7 o'clock, depending on the client still waiting there. So the offices in rural areas, it is really disturbing to hear that there are offices that come at 6 o'clock, sorry, at 11 o'clock, while people waited from 4 o'clock in the morning. I cannot at this stage comment on that because it is news to us, and we will really have to look close into that. If we are to drive to that particular office and find out exactly what happened, we will be able to come and report to this committee. It's something that really disturbs us. And as I was saying in the beginning of this presentation, that we really appreciate this engagement, because it's not only that we have to account, but it also opened our eyes on the areas where we did not know. Each and every office falls within a particular district. So the district are the eyes and ears of the executive manager sitting here in Cape Town. So if that is happening, we will have to deal with that with the district manager to explain that. But I will report, I will appreciate maybe if possible, the honorable member can indicate which area is this, so that in my next report, I include it in my report as to what was our investigation in that. Deploy additional staff. Say we are not going to have any additional staff. We are just going back to close to our normal, like the executive manager has also indicated. After the announcement of the president, we will wait for the guidance for our head office. But in terms of saying that we will deploy new staff, we can't. We will not be able to, but we make sure that we assess on a daily basis where the pressures are. We'll move resources from one area where we feel that, for example, if we feel that Belleville is swamped today and Wynberg is sort of breathing, we move resources from Wynberg to go and assist in Belleville. And I must say here that the cooperation that we get from other stakeholders like the City of Cape Town, giving us volunteers, that also helps us a lot. But this project is going to come to an end soon. So it's not going to be like this forever. And the measures that have been introduced by the executive manager who just came are really, really encouraging, because once we implement that, we will see a complete different picture in our province. And we were really excited when he presented this to us. The virtual step-by-step the step-by-step visual assessment means, say that what we do, we take all our people that comes to our offices to apply for a temporary disability grant or permanent disability grant. They have a record in health facilities. So what we do, once we have X number of people that are coming to apply, we know that this person comes from this area and this area and this area. And then we take the information of these people, we give it to the doctors to say that X number of people from Mitchell's Plain came to apply for, they've made appointments in this health facility on this day. Instead of these people going there, the doctors will go there and draw their files and look at the medical history and say this sickness of this person will still remain. He was diagnosed on this date, and it is this date now. Based on our experience, this will remain for the next 6 months. So we put that person back on the TDG. If they feel that the information is not clear, we want to see this client, they will call the client, because the information there that we give to the facilities that's got the telephone numbers and everything, and ask the client to come for assessment. Our job is to go to these facilities and get the register of all these people that have been assessed virtually without them going there, and then call them and say, come to the office. It's no longer necessary for you to go to the doctor. Come to the office, we take application, and then the person knows whether the application is approved or not. When the number of doctors can be increased, at this point in time, honorable member, we have the number of doctors that the executive manager has indicated. We have doctors that are contracted by the Department of Health. We have doctors that are contracted ourselves. With the number of doctors that we have and the number of assessments that are to be done, we are confident that come the 31st of March, if we are going to continue using the virtual, we will be done. Because it's not that this number is static. This number is increasing every day. I'm reporting 18 SASSA contracted doctors now. When I go to the office, I might find that it is now 25. By the end of the week, maybe it will be 30. So we are trying to get these doctors to where it has been difficult to service the areas like your Boland, your Southern Cape and Central Karoo and all those areas. So the number, it's not easy to say exact date when will it increase, but we just work with what we have and make sure that we speed out the process, we unlock every bottleneck, like the doctors that do not qualify in terms of supply chain requirements, our supply chain assists them to qualify. Then why the highest number of the TDG? That is a very important question, because every stakeholder that we present this to, this is the first question that comes. Even our national minister has asked the same question. But we said we are not going to answer the question without a scientific evidence of why. It's easy. There are many answers that we hear from different people, but we can't say that can for surely be reported as an official reason why. I have a meeting with a number of people that I've requested if they can conduct a research for us, a very quick but scientific and empirical research that is going to put us in a position to respond to anyone, and also not only to respond, but to say if the problem that leads to SASSA Western Cape people having to resort to this disability because of their health, maybe it's a responsibility for another department. We will have to advise that department to say, our research indicates that this leads to high TDG. Please look into it. All I'm saying at this stage is that we are prioritizing this matter. We are speaking to different people. I know I have a meeting at UCT next week on Tuesday discussing the same thing. If they cannot assist us with the research that will take at least 6 months, then we know what do we have in our province. How many SRDs vouchers have? I would like to really on this one, Honorable Chairperson, to indicate that I did not bring the statistics, but it's something that I can make available to you as soon as possible. I can only indicate that we try our level best that when we take the application, or we also, when we take, so we make an appointment, we also take the application for the SRT. But sometimes you find that because of pressures, there are many that fall within the cracks. But something that we discussed in our not last meeting, the meeting before the last, where we said, let us try to make sure that the SRT application is treated as important as the appointments, because to give someone appointment and someone is hungry now, it's something that sometimes raises question. But I commit that I will give the Honorable Chairperson the statistics at the end of this meeting. How do we plan to use doctors? I think I've covered that. We already deployed doctors in the Southern Cape, in the Poland, in West Coast. So each and every area of our region now have doctors. It's a question of now assessing those people that we need to assess. The copy of pamphlet, Honorable Chairperson, yes, we can make the pamphlet available, but if I may request that if we can just wait a little bit and then get approval from SASA to say, yes, it is a pamphlet that meets our communication protocol, then we will definitely send it, distribute it, and also finish the standing committee. The 100% capacity, I think the regional executive manager has touched on that one, and I've indicated that we will be directed by the head office to say, after the announcement of the president, what is the way forward in terms of staff that are working from home. But I know for the fact that we cannot be 100% because there are those there with comorbidities who are staying at home, but there are also those that are just working from home, not staying, working from home because they to create space in offices for others, so they alternate. So those will definitely have to come back, but we will have to make sure that space accommodate the social distancing. Chairperson, if I have missed out any, I would gladly respond if I'm advised to do so. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you for that, for your responses. Just to follow up on the issue of the protocol, and I understand that we're forming a new relationship. I just want to bring to your attention and to Mr. Mshlangu's attention. So this committee doesn't have a calendar that we send to stakeholders because we have different stakeholders that we meet with. But our program is always on the Western Cape Provincial Parliament's website. But on the screen at the moment, and I'm not sure if you can see it, is an example of a letter of invitation that we sent. And this is a letter of invitation, for information with our resolutions that was sent after our meeting that we held with SASA on the 17th of November, 2020. We requested certain documents that SASA agreed that they're going to make available. And then just to let you know, this is the response we received from SASA to those resolutions on the 17th of November. And if I go to the bottom of this page, if you look at the date that this response was sent to us, this was sent on the 17th of February 2021. So we sent a letter on the 17th of November 2020, and we received a response on the 17th of February 2021. Now, I don't know how SASSA works, but in any professional environment, that's not an acceptable time frame to get a response. But a general letter of invitation, which this committee will also send, looks like this. So every time when we invite you, Mr. Mashlangu, to appear, or Mr. Slangato, this is what we will send to you. And this is what we sent on the 18th of February. We sent a letter of invitation to this committee because we accepted that SASSA couldn't brief us because they had urgent business with the minister coming into town and they wanted to attend to that. And we accepted that apology, even though it came very late, and we rescheduled our business. But this letter was sent on the 18th of February and we received no response. Our procedural officer sent a follow-up on the 28th of February and we received no response. And only after I placed a call to Mr. Jansen yesterday morning did we get a response to say that SASSA will be here today. So this is just in terms of the administrative side, which makes it very difficult for us to plan our work, because we don't just have the SASSA issues to deal with as this committee. Our mandate is quite wide. So this is something that has occupied our attention because we've received an outcry from members of the community and we needed to address that. But just in terms of how our communication protocol works, if we would like you to appear, we will send you a letter of invitation. And we just ask that if you cannot appear, please respond as soon as possible to say you cannot make it on that specific date. And this committee is always very welcome to that kind of response, because we are happy to reschedule the meeting to a more convenient time. Because we do understand that you are all very busy. You've got a lot of work that you're doing, and the SASSA staff works under extreme pressure to make sure that the more than 18 million beneficiaries of social grants are attended to. And thank you very much for answering those questions as well. Mr. Mashlangu, do I see your microphone moving?
Yes, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I cannot overemphasize the importance of us as SASSA in the province having an oversight like the Standing Committee. We don't take it for granted at all. We want to restore order, and these turnaround times will be sorted out, Chairperson. As they are not reflecting the ethos of how we should relate with government oversight. We therefore are going to work hard to try and restore proper relationships, and in terms of even administration of whatever requirements there are between us. I do definitely regret the fact that it took so many follow-ups until you got a response and confirming our availability to attend this meeting. We'll make sure that we corrected this, Chairperson. Shall the Chairperson and the committee indulge us, and maybe put us to test in terms of our commitment to make sure that we adhere to this. We take the oversight of this committee very seriously, because it is only through their wisdom and their being, on the ground with us sometimes where we cannot reach, that we can be better people. And we aim to make the SASSA Western Cape a better, agency of the state. And this can only happen through partnerships and collaboration. And we commit that we will definitely do our best. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Members, I'm now going to open it up for another round of questions or a round of follow-up questions. I'm going to kick off the follow-up questions while I wait for members to raise their hand. I just want to understand, so the plan is to process all of the outstanding temporary disability grants and ensure that all the clients are dealt with by the end of this month. Is that the plan? Because I'm in conversation with a Miss Roman who has been to the Belleville office several times in the last 6 months, and she's now got an appointment to see a SASSA doctor on the 26th of March. And then after that, she's been told she must come back to SASSA 3 weeks after seeing the doctor. So that will be the end of April. So does that mean that she's going to get the outcomes of her application at the end of April? So if you could just maybe clarify that. And then I see Mr. McKenzie has his hand up. I'm going to hand over to you, Mr. McKenzie.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think you answered the question that I asked the first round that has not, from my understanding, been answered clearly, because that question is applicable for all the beneficiaries, not only for the person that you deal with. when and where will those beneficiaries and by which medium, like I said, so we can avoid another Belleville situation where people have to go back and back and back, will they get those final answers? Thank you.
Are there any other members with another question for this round?
So the chair.
Yes, Mr. Mackenzie, go ahead.
So if I can just say one thing, I have to thanks to Mr. Mahlango for it does sound like a fresh approach, and we look forward to a continued engagement with him, because that sounds like he wants to deal with these matters, and it really look forward to seeing some of the responses quite sooner than later. So I do appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahlango.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Mahlango, I don't see any other hands from members, so I'll hand over to you to answer those two questions.
Okay. Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Ntlangoti, if you can just maybe attend to those two questions, but also just clarify, perhaps as the other honorable member indicated, it is important sometimes to understand step by step, because I also do believe that we need to intensify our communication. For example, the completion of assessment, or to say the assessment has been completed, does not already mean the grant is approved. I think it is the outcome can go either way. If the assessment indicates that there is no need for temporary extension of a particular grant, obviously the outcome letter will go out and state as such. But I want to place also on record to our honorable committee members that sometimes the challenges are that our people, because of desperation, don't take no for an answer. But we try and deal in a reiterative manner with those people to try and indicate to them, why is it that the outcome was not as was expected. But Mr. Ntlangoti, would you like to just answer a few questions that were raised by the honorable members? Mr. Ntlangoti.
Thank you, Regional Executive. So maybe, sir, let me start from what you have just indicated. I need to maybe make the statement to the Honorable Chair and the members that it is true what the Regional Executive Manager is saying, that because sometimes our people, a neighbor, they went to both maybe one of our clients and the neighbor would go and apply for the disability grant, and they are both approved. But their sickness, sometimes the other one heals, the other one, the doctors advise that you still need to continue. And when they come to our offices, and then we said we cannot do anything because the doctors say you are not a candidate, and they feel that, but my neighbor, we went together, and why me? Why am I not? So because of the level of desperation, what Mr. Mahlango is saying, and I must say that I have been working in KwaZulu-Natal, and Western Cape is one province where we have not experienced a situation where doctors are pointed to give clients this. We have not had that information, but in other provinces, even doctors are scared to disapprove this, or not to recommend this a temporary disability grant or disability grant. So I thought I need to put some meat on that because it is important. In terms of the final answer for the beneficiary, the regional executive manager has started by saying that when we make an appointment to the doctor, it is actually the beginning of the process as prescribed by our act, by law, that a prerequisite for any disability grant, whether it's a temporary disability grant or a permanent disability grant, is the doctor's assessment. So once that has happened, it is only then that we start our application, which may go either way. Now, what is going to happen now if a client is only, our project says that it ends at the 31st of November. We must be done with all the assessments. Now, if a client is assessed on the 31st of March, sorry, if the client is assessed on the 31st of March, that client will come to our office, but and then will apply on the day the client come to our office. He or she will leave our office knowing whether the grant has been approved or not. But here is the difference, Honorable Chairperson and members, is that now we will be prepared. We know how many people are with the doctors. We know how to gear ourselves, prepare ourselves, plan for anybody. And these people don't come back at once. The doctors assess this batch today. This batch is coming to office. We inform the client, come to the office for application. And so it will be much manageable. It is true that if you go to our assessment register now, there are people to our appointment register who were made appointments up until June, July. But that's not going to happen because at the time we made those assessments, those appointments, we did not have the virtual. So all those will come back now to be done within the period specified. So I want to say that maybe if I got the questions correctly, that the people that will be done by the end of 31st March will only be assessments. But it does not mean that we are not doing any applications now. There are people that go to appointments being assessed and we take applications. We take applications now, but at this point in time, our focus is that let's get all these people assessed so that we can redirect all these resources and put them to focus on applications. We don't have a deadline yet for the applications to say we should be done with all applications because there are also new people who come to say, today I'm coming for the very first time. I'm not part of the backlog. I just come. They will also need to be. But what I can assure the members is that anybody who come to our office after being assessed, by the time he leaves the office, the person will leave with a letter that says your grant has been approved or not. We also explain to the people whose grants are not approved that there is a process that they need to follow, which may also lead to appeal. There's an appeal tribunal that deals with all those things. So, but it is explained to the people that are coming to our offices. And Mr. Mahlangu has just suggested that I need maybe to give a step by step, and I think I will gladly send a document that speaks to step-by-step application up to approval and payment to the, because if I may maybe talk about it here, it may take very, very long, but it will put members at a position where they will understand clearly what happens if someone applies for a disability grant, when is the payment kick in, what is the waiting period. So I want to stop there for now, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I see, Member Mackenzie, your hand is up. Is that a follow-up?
Yes, Chairperson, I think there is, and I appreciate that the part explanation that the official gave us now. I would appreciate the information that is shared, that be shared with us quite soon. But I still need to, I'm not comfortable. I appreciate what he's saying, that when people apply, you see, in my mind, it was like that as well. And if it's at this level, in my mind, I can imagine how somebody feels when they come and complete an assessment with a doctor. My understanding was once they've done the complete process, and I think on slide number 7, it was the 16,000, that those individuals will be, if you've done your process 2-3 weeks ago, and the online assessment, because it's done online, in my mind, and this is how I thought it will work, that the doctor will say, well, we've seen Ricardo's in a wheelchair, he's here, I physically inspected him, done and dusted. But based on what I hear, it goes through to another level of assessment, to a committee or to a team that must still re-look at that application. Now, that is where the frustration from people is going to come in. And I have not heard the timelines for that process yet, and I need to understand that. Because if it's done online, it's as simple as a doctor seeing me saying, listen, Ricardo is disabled, he's in a wheelchair. That should, in my mind, approves the process to enable, I'm using me just as a reference now, to get that funding. But based on what I'm hearing, there's still another process. And my fear is that persons who has been assessed, based on the example that the chairperson raised, has not gotten that explanation yet. And that will cause, and like you say, it hasn't happened here yet in KwaZulu-Natal, where people point guns at doctors' hands. But when people become frustrated and when they don't get proper communications, things do happen. And I'm just not getting that clearly. And how will that be managed? And if there's a strategy to deal with it, because people are going to be aggrieved of 50,000, if 10% of 50,000 is 5,000. People are being told you're not going to get a grant after they've seen the doctors. You are going to get a group of aggrieved individuals coming to your offices.
Can I come in?
Thank you very much, Member Mackenzie. Yes, sir, you may respond.
No, thank you, Chairperson. I think I understand exactly what the Honorable Mackenzie is indicating. Honorable Member, I can just indicate that when the process of assessment ends, the process of application takes place. And I think where the confusion is, and many people are confused with the fact that once they see the doctor approves. The doctor does not approve, it's SASSA that approves, because on the part of the application, it's not a tribunal, it's just a client sitting in front of the official looking into the grant. So the temporary disability grant is issued in terms of the means test. We need to look into the pay slips, the bank statements, if there is any other income and all that. So the application is about that. We've got guidelines that tells us that once we put on the system, it indicates whether the grant is approved or not. It's not us approved. We just put the amount, the salary, if there is salary, no salary, if there's no salary, bank statements and all that, and the process is clearly stated there. So that is the part that sometimes is confusing, because many people think that once the doctor says this person is sick, automatically, and you are quite right, doctor, honorable member, that sometimes it does not make sense. It brings frustration. I know it is something that our deputy minister, Minister Mkhopane, is also complaining all about every time, that why do we have to follow all these tedious processes when it is clear that this person has a condition that will not change. So, but we can't do anything because it is law. The only thing that I can commit to in this before the committee here is that we will make sure that the application process is as expeditious as possible. It's not like the appointment system. Or this is the part, the gap that I wanted to close when I hear the honorable member, is that once the doctor is done with the virtual or the folder assessment, we go as SASSA and fetch the registers. We call these people to the offices to say, your assessment is done, please come to the office on this day to take an approval. Bring 1, 2, 3, 4, and all that. By the time the client comes, we know that it's coming. So he comes here, we deal with him, he doesn't have to wait long, and then he leaves the office knowing what's happening. If he's not successful, somebody will sit down with him, explain to him, your grant is not successful because of 1, 2, 3, this is what you need to do. That's how the process unfolds. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. I see Mr. Mashlango as well.
Chairperson, it is a very worrisome process, Chairperson, and purely because of the desperation. On the other hand, we have had a certain process that we need to do as controls, such as looking at the change of the profile or circumstances of the person. It's more like doing a background check, but in a particular way, so that people do not deplete the government resources by double dipping. There are circumstances of people that change during the course of an award or during the tenure of the award. Now the people don't declare them, and if we continue without doing certain checks, even for reinstatement purposes, we may find that the circumstances around that person have actually changed. Now the Auditor General sometimes come and pick up the database of people who have double dipped because we did not have controls of certain checks to be done. And we don't do this purely to frustrate people. We try and make sure that as an agency of the state, what is due to the people, definitely they get it as speedily as possible. But unfortunately, certain instances, these checks may take a little bit longer. But we will work hard, particularly in customer education, so that people can be clarified. We will use the available means and platforms to try and reach out to our communities. And I'm also glad that this community, we're not going to work well without it. If there's any way and suggestion of saying how we can reach out on the beneficial education, because some constituencies are on the ground and are reachable by members, that feedback is very crucial to us, because we can investigate and perhaps change our models, because in this dynamic world, we don't want to work with the status quo that may have been relevant some years ago, but the changes that have come upon us do not necessarily get satisfaction through employing those old strategies. So we'll definitely continue to improve the services, but what is key is to make the customer, our clients, not the most vulnerable, but our clients, to recognize that we have their interests at heart. That's why the government gives them these benefits. And our duty is to make sure that they reach the correct people. And the only way to do so, reach the correct person at the right time, is to try and make also sure that there is no fraud or there is no other things that come in between to disturb our processes. But we really value the concern that a member has raised. We'll make sure that we continue to work hard to prevent unnecessary delays because of our internal processes and controls. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, sir, for those responses. Members, I'm now going to give an opportunity to Ms. Nivot, who I indicated earlier is also joining us. Ms. Nivot is the Director of Stel Care in the Stellenbosch Drakenstein municipality. Ms. Nivot, I'm not sure if you have a specific question or if you'd just like to make representations to both this committee and to SASSA, but you may go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Just a little bit of background as far as Stel Care is concerned. We are surely the biggest child protection organization in the Western Cape, and we serve 5 communities. Eerstrivier, the Kleinvlei area, where the nearest SASSA branch is the East River branch. Then we also in Kayamandi, and then in Stellenbosch, and we also serve Kalmore. Just to give you an indication, Mr. Chair, is that way back in July last year, we become aware that something is going to happen with our grant recipients. And we start to try to liaise with SASSA to say, how can we help? We need to assist our people because it is a disaster in the waiting. So, and I also just want to welcome Mr. Mshlangoti and Mr. Mshlangu in our midst. So we had several negotiations with Mr. de Graaff and up to our partners in Paul. And I think really, to answer some of the other members' questions, this was a crisis that could have been mitigated much better if we worked together. We offered to our SASSA office our premises free of charge. we say to them, you can come in on a Monday, you can leave on a Friday. If needs be, we can work over a Saturday and a Sunday if needs be. But we cannot let our people be inundated with calls for assistance and to be turned away from the different branches. As far back as November last year, we first received a visit from the head of the security, and I'm saddened to hear that he has passed in the meantime. Our condolences to his family as well. But Mr. Chair, we put together a video for SASSA to demonstrate to them what we can do. And also just to want to put to the committee that our site here at Stelcare has been used by SASSA for many years as an official point for visits for grant recipients. Up and down we went, and then eventually they decide to come down to our premises. We provide the volunteers to do the crowd control. We provide everything to make it possible for SASSA to come. They only allow 3 officials to visit our office instead of the normal 6.
Ms. Niver, we seem to have lost you there for a minute. Ms. Nivert, are you still there? Ms. Nivert, are you able to hear me?
I'm back. Are you back now, Mr. Chair?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes. Sorry, our internet is not very stable. We try to convince them with the assistance of the PAL office, and I must really commend PAL office for the support and their willingness to work together. The problem is, Mr. Chair, that the different departments, like the Department of Health, they tend not to work together. They refuse to let the files go from the clinic to our office, despite us giving them guarantees that we can also protect the information, we can lock it away in our safe, just assist our people. For the whole of January, SASSA did not visit the Stellenbosch area. So, Mr. Chair, it is not only the disability grant that is going to cause a problem, it is all the other grants that is now laid back. But to address the disability grant only, we have managed last week for the first time to have a doctor at our site. And we could assist SASSA in processing 110 temporary disability grant applications. And I think if we just work together on this road going forward, we can overcome this. And I want to come back to what the Honourable Member, I think Brinkhuis, said about why. Honourable Chair, I think one of the things that COVID-19 learned us is that the means that people will work out not to come to work. I'm sitting with 12 persons with comorbidities in my organization, social workers, social auxiliary workers, admin staff. And not one day since the 1st of March last year has this office been closed for service to our communities. So it is doable. It is doable to bring back our people to work. It is doable to comply with the regulations. If we can do it, everyone can do it. I propose to SASSA, if you send out your component of officials to our site, then you open up space for more officials to be at the PAL office. And I don't know if I'm stupid, but I'm sure it will work. There is a reluctance of people, and I don't refer to one specific office, to step out of their space and to serve our people. Honourable Chair, for a person from Stellenbosch to visit the Paul or the Easter River office, they must take 4 taxis at the cost of 200 Rand. We speak about poor people. We speak about vulnerable people. We speak about people who must hitchhike on roads in order to come to Stellenbosch because they know that SASSA is normally here on a Wednesday in Stellenbosch. I think it is doable. I plead with you, let us work together, Mr. Shlangoti and Mr. Mshlangu. We offered and we asked SASSA train our volunteers so that we can assist the community with the online applications. Even that has been apparently a problem. We will provide the resources, we will provide the volunteers. Honourable Chair, I'm sure some of the members are aware of our Eye on the Child program. This is the volunteers that we use. We are experts in crowd control. We did not have one incident in Stellenbosch. And once we are through with the process in Stellenbosch, this is what I would suggest to SASSA. Give the option to people outside of our area to visit the Stellenbosch site. If we can get it back and up and running for 5 days, we will give it free to SASSA. It is not about us, it's about our people. As far as the communication is concerned, it is really a problem. We send emails, we do not receive answers back. We call Easter River office, there's never the phone answered. And again, I have to commend the Paul office where there's daily communication between my office and their office. And I hope, Mr. Mshangoti, that you come with Mr. de Graa's cell phone number because I got him on my list and I never have any fear to call him and he would respond to me. So I just hope that we will be able to go forward on this level as well. I just try to see the other stuff as also. As far as the other problems, Mr. Chair, is just to bring the bigger picture to you. We also deal with foster care grants. We had a foster parent with 4 children placed in their foster care way back in November. They got an appointment in Easter River office for a visit February this year. When they arrived there, they were sent back because the stamp on the court order was not readable, but you could see the date. So that means another month would have passed. Fortunately, I could manage to bring them to Stellenbosch and we could solve the problem. If we work together, we can really improve on our services. Starting at work 11 o'clock is not only for the rural areas. And I can understand because of the fact that many officials work from home, the ones in the office must first attend to clients there and then they're allowed to come to our office. We got people here sitting from 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning because they are fearful for not being heard, not being seen. So, and I'm glad that you raised the point, Madam, I think it's Brinkhuis again, because it's not only a problem for the rural areas, but it is a created problem within the system of SASSA. So please let us work together and let us try to resolve this issue in the interest of our people. What it boils down to, Honourable Chair, is that it is an organization like ours that we have to feed people because they lack the grants. Elderly people cannot apply for their grants because of this huge backlog. So I hope going forward that we can really work together to resolve this matter. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nivert. And I think just to follow up on your submission, I want to maybe ask Mr. Mashlangu and Mr. Shlangoti if you could tell us who the contact person would be within SASSA Western Cape that we can engage with when it comes to requests for partnerships. Because I know that there's been several organizations that have offered to partner with SASSA. the community chest, for instance, have indicated that they would like to help SASSA by providing perhaps something for the people standing in the queues at the offices to eat, and especially when we had people sleeping outside of the Belleville office. I was contacted by a young woman from Ravensmead, Miss Olivia Hendricks, who asked me who she can speak to be able to assist the members of her community by helping them to complete any grant applications online, because people spend their last money going to a SASSA office and then they spend the whole day standing in the queue and then have to come back the next day. So if we could kind of get that feedback. I noted member Murray also joined the meeting and his hand was up while Ms. Nivot was speaking. Honorable Murray, are you still with us or have you disappeared? No, I see Honorable Murray has left. Mr. Mashlangu and Mr. Slangoti, do you want to respond to those last and perhaps also make concluding remarks, as I don't see any other hands from any members or any of the organizations that have joined us today?
Okay. Mr. Ntlangoti, did you want to go first? Then I'll go last, then I'll hand over back to the chairperson. Mr. Ntlangoti, do you have last comment?
Yes, thank you, Regional Executive Manager. Mrs. Nivot, I'm really very much unhappy with what we are bringing to our attention about the operating times in some of our offices. And I want to say to ma'am, I can tell you that we are taking this very serious, and the Regional Executive Manager is here. He hears for himself. We will definitely deal with that. We know that there are offices like Stellenbosch, and if you go to West Coast as well, where officials are to start in the office first, get documents, sign for the cars and everything, and drive kilometers to the service points, because we don't have offices there. We use service points. That makes them to take time. But 11 o'clock, I agree, is very late, because they also need to consider time driving back to offices. So on that one, I want to say we are really taking it serious, and I'm sure the executive manager will also speak to that one. I appreciate the offer, you extending hand in terms of making your premises available. We will have, you and I need to meet so that we can see how do we draw in our facilities, corporate services, to say what needs to be done from our side, because at this point in time, we need any help that we can get. Unfortunately, I may not speak on what happened when there were engagements before my time, but I'm sure you and I will be able to sit down again and enter into fresh engagements. The numbers, the telephone numbers for myself, I will give it to you, ma'am. I'm not using Mr. De Graal's cell phone. I came with my cell phone, so I will be giving my cell number at the end of this meeting, or it will appear on the documents that will be shared, so that you can call me at any time, as long as we, both of us, have the same interest of servicing our people. I'm not going to talk about the issues of commodities, people staying at home and what. For now, yes, we have made a very good statement around that. We have taken a note of some things, but I'm looking actually forward to our engagement, because that's where we'll clarify all those things. I really welcome the issue of volunteers as well, as we really need the extra hands. So, and I would like to say that maybe the executive manager will have to also to pronounce on that one when he makes his closing remarks. On the side that has been of the issue that has been raised by the honorable chairperson, the contact person here is our senior manager responsible for the customer care, Ms. Beverly Gardner, who can be contacted for any things relating to what has been raised. And then in terms of the community's chairs, say yes, we have met with them, and we had a very fruitful meeting last week, and it is work in progress, and we also welcome their gesture. It's something that gives us a level of comfortability to say we have stakeholders that are really working with us and are contributing to the work that we are doing, and we appreciate that. And more other people who want to come, Chairperson, I would really want to say our hands are open. Lastly, I would like to give the contact details for Mrs. Gardner, Beverly Gardner. She is responsible for the customer care. Her number is 079 508 9618. 079 508 5618. And my telephone number is 066 243 5549. 066 243 5549. The extension in my office is not yet installed, but you can use the extension that was used for Mr. De Kra, the landline, if you have, that Mr. De Kra used to, because I am occupying his office at the moment. So that is that. On my side, the executive manager will close. I also want to say thank you to the chairperson for giving us this opportunity, and thank you to the members and the stakeholders for the questions that they've raised, for the comments that they've raised. We really appreciate, and also would look into what has been raised. Where we have made commitments to submit documents, we'll certainly do that. I hand over to my executive manager, and once again, thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Ntlangoti. Chairperson, and through you to Ms. Nivote, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It is quite heartwarming to note the willingness by your organization to be part of the service delivery value chain of SASSA. Although I must say we were not aware, as Mr. Ntlangoti has indicated, but I'm grateful that you were in this meeting, and therefore I would definitely like to make sure that we set time aside. Perhaps myself and Mr. Ntlangoti will set up a meeting with you, or to come through to actually not do a desktop exercise, but actually have a look. We'll have our masks and our sanitizers with us to make sure that we can meet and see exactly what it is that is on offer, and see how we can leverage that. Because if there's an infrastructure that can assist improvement of customer service, we would like to leverage that to the fullest. That includes the suggestions and the offers that are being made by various, interest groups and non-profit organizations. Would definitely like to take full advantage of such. And to the chairperson, for our office, I think Dive is the contact person with regard to any request for information and documents and so on. He is online here. One time when I was the acting CEO, I was on live radio interview, and because of the pressure, ended up giving my my cell phone, and on that very day I got 200 and something calls. But I'm not suggesting giving my cell phone number to the committee will give rise to such. But my cell phone number definitely for the duration of my tenure here will definitely be made available to the community, to the committee members. With regard to the assistance for online, particularly applications, by those that cannot necessarily navigate through the gadgets, I would definitely like to take Ms. Nivote also on it when we meet, so that we can make arrangements. And then if we need to have a quick demo or need to have a quick, video kind of a guide, but we want to take that particular offer on as well, because I believe that it will help a great deal in making our people not to necessarily show up at our offices when they don't necessarily need to, if they could have done it online. Chairperson, as a last comment, really, we appreciate the wisdom of this committee. We appreciate the constructive comments and the criticism that has come through and the hard questions that were asked. Yes, some of them we did not maybe provide 100% answers. But what we commit to, we will begin to understand the workings of this committee and the thought processes of this committee, and would like to make sure that we take full advantage of that and make sure that we improve our service delivery to the community. And our desire indeed is to make sure that we make SASSA great again in the Western Province. Over to you, Chairperson, and I want to thank you very much. Over to the Chairperson.
Chairperson, are you there? Gillian? I think the chairperson has been cut off. Member Bosman? Well, I think that was the last of the feedback, if my understanding is correct. And Nomonde, was there anything else that we needed from Social Development Department?
Nothing, Member Mackenzie. I think the department has covered everything.
Okay. While we wait for Member Bosman to get back, I think that was the end of the department. Mr. Hlangoti and Mr. Mahlangu and your team, thank you very much. We will be sending you the list of requirements from the committee side. And then thank you for, like I said earlier on, thank you for your openness in trying to steer SASSA down the right path, and as you say, make SASSA great again. And to the other participants that came, Mrs. Betty and anyone else who's here with us, as far as I know, there was no outstanding matters from you guys, and we can excuse you.
Thank you very much, standing in, Chairperson, and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, members. Goodbye.
Okay, the members, we can just stay here. Deal with the committee matters.
Honorable Mackenzie is the chairperson. Did you try to get hold of him?
He's still within the meeting, but I think his mic is muted. Maybe he muted his mic. I asked him to unmute it out there.
Gillian, are you there?
Disappearing act.
I'm here.
Yeah.
There you are. There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Chair.
I could hear everything you guys were saying, and I was not muted, so I'm not quite sure what's happening.
The ghost. Okay, let me tell you where we are, Gillian. The officials have left, so you can just conclude with the rest of the meeting.
No, thank you very much. I think, members, I'm still not completely sure where we are with these grant applications, and I am skeptical that we're going to have all of the outstanding grants processed by the end of this month. As I'm sitting here, I'm getting WhatsApps from members of the public who are waiting for appointments, asking how this is going to take place because they are not getting any feedback from SASSA. But I do hope that both Mr. Mahlangu and Mr. Hlangoti are going to be able to make that happen. I also just want to say I'm extremely grateful for the work that Mr. Henry de Graaf has done, and we formed a wonderful working relationship with him, and he's always been very willing to engage with this committee. And with your permission, members, I would like this committee to write to Mr. de Graaf and thank him for his service. And Nomonde might be able to guide us in terms of what our privileges are, but if we can send him a little gift as a token of appreciation from the Provincial Parliament, and we can negotiate that with the Speaker. because he has given quite a lot of his time, sometimes late at night, to the work of SASSA and to responding to both us and to members of the public. And I think that needs to be celebrated, and I hope that he enjoys his retirement. Members, I'm now going to ask if there are any resolutions in terms of the presentation and in terms of the submissions that were made by members of the public.
Chairperson, I recognizing my hand is up.
Yes, Mr. Mackenzie, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yes, I also I do appreciate the work done to date from SASSA in getting us this information, but I do also have the same concern that you have, and my concern that I raised earlier on also to Mr. Mahlangu and his colleague was that when you complete an application and like I think 16,000, like I said, was done. I sincerely hope and I pray, and I really do pray, that the communication to those applicants after they've done the assessment with the doctors was there is no guarantee that you will get the money just because you've seen the doctor. I sincerely hope that message was sent to, but knowing past experiences, that it's unlikely that would have been done. And I do hope that any communication that we send them from here onwards, that we do make it clear that with the remaining 31,000 individuals that are coming to see the doctors from now until the end of March, if you do in your letter to them, that they communicate clearly and that those 31,000 individuals fully understand that just because you've seen the doctor does not mean you automatically qualify for a grant. And I do want that to be very clear to those in the remaining 31,000. And if they can, by virtue of an SMS or something to the 16,000 as well, communicate to those that have seen the doctor, your application has been completed for seeing the doctor, but that does not guarantee you a grant. And I just want that, because if that hasn't been done, we're setting ourselves up for a massive incident. And then on your second part, I do think that, yes, we need to thank Mr. McGrath for the work that is done, but I just want us to caution against setting precedents for sending gifts to officials, because many people has retired or are going to retire who has been great not only to our committee here, but to several other committees, that we might start a precedent that'll create the expectation from others. But certainly from yours, I respect the decision that you want to do as a chairperson, but I would just like us to caution sending gifts that it creates an expectation from other officials in the future that they might receive something as well from committees. But that's my opinion on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Mackenzie. When I said gift, I was thinking about a tie with the WCPP logo or keyring, which is things that we give to our constituents. But I'm happy for that to come out of my promotional catalog budget as well.
Certainly.
Members, are there any other resolutions that we would need to note, or any requests for more information? The one that I've noted is the copy of the pamphlet. We also, the senior manager customer care, we got the number for one of the officials, but not the contact details for the senior manager. And then also, Member Windvogel raised a very important point around they asked for the location where the SASSA officials do not turn up. If we could just get that. And then also the step-by-step guide. Member Windvogel, I see you, and then Member Mackenzie.
Yeah, Chairperson, I support your proposal of sending Mr. Legansi that gift, and it's just a token of appreciation. Yeah, it is the Swellendam area, so I really want you to put it in Swellendam, but it's not Swellendam alone. If you go to the Southern Cape, the same problems happens in the rural areas with the visiting points. Yeah, then the other thing, I'm not sure, but you will know how to fit it in. I was thinking, what if the department of, let's say, SASSA, not the department, the possibility, what we experience, I went twice to this visiting points because of the long queues and all the problems that we are experiencing at the visiting points. People have to get those, I'm not sure, do they call it affidavits where the police need to certify? So now it means like if you are in the Railton, you have to go down to the police station. Can SASSA perhaps arrange with the police of those stakeholders that they need to be in the same space where they are? Like in Railton, you have a huge, what do you call it? Not multiple, what is the centers? Two song centers where they can accommodate all those different role players so that people don't need to go from van een bakboord tot 'n ander. Dis shame, die arme mense is siek, die arme mense is honger, die arme mense het nie die geld vir transport nie. So if they can arrange those, like the police, the other lady spoke about the doctors at certain points, so that we can at least assist those who are really in need. Thank you, Chair.
Baie dankie mevrou Windvogel. Ek dink is 'n baie goeie idee dat SASSA vir ons kan miskien verduidelik hoe hulle 'n geïntegreerde dienslewering kan offer. But maybe if I could also make a suggestion to this committee, and it's something that I've done when I visit SASSA offices. We are all commissioner of oaths, and we can sometimes perhaps volunteer some of our time to certify documents as well at some of these points, because that's one of the issues that I've observed at some of the offices that I come to, is where some people are just standing in a queue to certify a document. And it's something that we can also do. And maybe it's something that we need to ask our colleagues, the councillors at local government, if they could also assist, because they are also commissioner of oaths. And maybe Member Mackenzie, if you could find out for us in your capacity as chair of Premier and Constitutional Affairs, whether there is somebody at the two song centers who are a commissioner of oaths who are also able to perhaps assist. Member Mackenzie, your hand was also up.
Yes, Chairperson, that's quite a good idea. I will find out from you. I'll actually WhatsApp them now, so I can respond to this committee soon. And then on the point that I wanted to raise, the details presented to us was as of the 24th of February, if I'm right, which was nearly 10 days ago. February 28 months, so that's been 9 days ago, 28 days, sorry. So if we can get the latest update, and also just for future purposes, that the information, if they do come to the committee in a week or 2 weeks, that the information can be as fresh or fresh as possible, because 8 days is a very long time. In fact, 1 day is a very long time. So things could have gone much better, or things could have stagnated in the last 6 or 7 days. We don't know at this point in time. We're operating information that's 8 days old. And if we can get a weekly update on this, or where we need to, where there is a, as the officials say, where we need to, as public reps, get involved to get to people who cannot get to a doctor for whatever reason, or to an appointment for whatever reason. I know many members of those committees are very active in the constituencies, that we get to those offices and try as fast as we can assist where possible. And I think that is just my input just now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Nomonde. So if we could ask SASSA as a resolution, if they could send us the same weekly report that they're currently sending to the national minister and as well as the provincial minister, if they could send us that with updated statistics. And also we would like a report on the amount of people that have been given the social relief of distress grant, the 500 Rand, and if they could outline what the criteria is for an applicant of a temporary disability grant to be given that 500 Rand, because one of the complaints that I've also received is that one person who's applying for TDG, where the husband perhaps works a job every other day in the month, they said, no, you don't qualify because you've got money coming in, but it's someone only working for 2-3 days a month, etc. So it's not any substantial income. Members, are there any other resolutions or requests for information that you'd like us to note?
Chairperson.
Yes, Member Mackenzie.
Seeing our new acting general manager and the new acting, she seems to be very open to new ideas and to working with this committee. If we can, because we're now on the 2nd of March, the financial year starts on the 1st of April. If at our next engagements, we can just get a latest report on where SASSA's social relief programs are in the Western Cape, where they're at, what's happening, just the status on social relief from SASSA in the Western Cape.
Okay, so it's a follow-up meeting to give us an update on social relief of distressed and poverty alleviation generally across the province.
Yes.
So it will be a check-in on all the burning issues. So how much money do you have for the 350 grant? How much money have you given out for victims of fires, whether that's in Masiphumelele, or whether that's in Licha, whether it's somewhere up the West Coast, etc. And also how much money has been spent on, like he said, political requests. So where the minister or someone says, these people need assistance, and they were given that money. Did I capture that, Mackenzie?
Capture it perfectly, Chairperson. All the burning issues, in fact, right, what to say, because the financial year starts on the 1st of April. If an NGO on whether it's Kailicha, whether it's Mitchell's Plain or Beaufort West, need to go for, we did not apply 3 months ago, is there still a window of opportunity for them to get in now? You know, literally all the burning issues, where can we assist in preventing a flare-up of massive issues, because he seems to be more open than his predecessor. So hopefully the presentation will be much more detailed. Thank you.
Members, can I also ask that if there are any grant recipients that have submitted queries to you and you've not been able to resolve that, are you able to send that through to me as well? Because I've got a long list of people that contact me, and I try and get them in touch with the different offices to get responses, but it might be easier if we send one consolidated spreadsheet with people's names, contact details, complaint, and what the follow-up needs to be, etc. If we can send that through, if there are any, you can send that to me as well.
We'll do so, Chair. Thank you.
Noted, Chair.
Members, if there are no more resolutions, we're now going to move on to the adoption of the minutes. And that's the minutes of the meeting that was held on the 21st, so the 11th of February. I just want to see if I can get this on the screen. Are you all able to see the minutes of the 11th of February?
Yes, we can see, Chairperson.
So we've got page 1, which is the attendance. Are there any omissions or anything missing from page 1? Is it a true reflection of who was at the meeting?
That's right.
Then page 2.
That's right.
I now table page 3, which was the information requested.
That's right, Chair. We have not received the information yet.
The deadline for the information is only the 9th of March 2021.
That's perfect.
we need to give them some time to get it. Members, can I have a proposer and a seconder for the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of February 2021?
I propose, Chairperson.
Thank you, Member Mackenzie. Can we have a seconder?
I second, Chairperson, Member Brankhuis.
Thank you, Member Brankhuis. Colleagues, I now also want to ask if there is anything else that we've missed.
Yes, Chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Mackenzie.
Chairperson, at our last meeting, we discussed a workshop to discuss some of the issues similar to the one we had last year on the Children's Commissioner. And it's just like us to, I presume, are we going to make a formal decision now here where we're going to do it and when? Or should we leave that to you and the chair and Amonde, which are in your capable hands? And then just to add to the agenda for that workshop, again, seeing that we've now seemed to get to start off the relationship with the new individuals from SASSA very well, if we can, and subject to a decision of this committee, invite them for 2 or 3 hours just to do a briefing on what they do, SASSA's roles and responsibility, who to contact in case of emergencies, the process of NGO and how they can get through to that to get to them for applying for funding in the future. It'll be nice, and I'll tell you why I'm asking. It'll be nice to be equipped with that kind of information. So when we as public reps go out, we can actually say, listen, this is the person, don't phone the regional manager. This is the right person in the East. This is the right person in Beaufort West. Here's where you need to apply for grant or for relief or phone this 0800 number. It'd be nice just to get a structural presentation from SASSA and sort of have a Q&A engagement, not necessarily in a committee's perspective, but in a workshop perspective. That will just be an idea towards that workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Mackenzie. Yes, we did have that discussion, and I think it's something that's quite urgently needed because we've got a long list of topics that we want to cover, that we're trying to find dates for, but we need to have a strategic approach to it. So I welcome the idea that we invite SASSA, and I want to add that we should also invite the National Development Agency, which is another agency within the Department of Social Development, because I really don't know what they do. I saw volunteers at the SASSA office, and the SASSA staff didn't seem too impressed with the volunteers, but it's something that was there. And apparently, when you look at the budget allocation, they get quite a lot of money as well. So we want to know, where does that money go? So members, can I ask that if you could send me agenda items or points that you'd like us to cover over a 2 to 3 day workshop, and then we will work with the programming authority to identify a date. And we will also, I welcome ideas for where you'd like this workshop to be. That would be useful, maybe preferably someplace where we haven't been before, and someplace peaceful and quiet where there's no internet connection, so that we focus on the workshop and not on our WhatsApps like we normally do, and that we get a bit of a time to really focus. And also, if there's any other organizations or any arms of government that you think we should invite, besides SASSA and the NDA, I also think we should invite the Children's Commissioner to talk about what her plans are for her office and how we fit into it as a committee that are the custodians of a lot of the legislation that deals with children. I just also want to bring to your attention that we currently do have a draft program for social development. And if there's anything on that draft program that you think we need to workshop a little bit more, that would be very useful as well. And then just to update you, we are trying to find dates for all of those meetings, but we're just waiting for the budget timeline to be agreed. So the Minister of Finance has tabled the budget, so the provincial budget processes will now start to kick in. So as soon as we've gotten clarity on when that is, we will start plotting dates with the Programming Authority for all our outstanding meetings. Colleagues, is there anything else that you'd like to add at this point before we adjourn? Nomonde, is there anything that I've forgotten or missed out?
You have covered everything, Chair. The next meeting, I think it will be on the 18th of March from 8 until 1. The first one will be the third adjustment appropriation bill 2020-21, and the second session will be the appropriation budget for 21-22 financial year.
Perfect. Thank you very much, members, and thank you very much for your time this morning. I wish you all a good week. And thank you very much to Nomonde and to Ben, as well as to our colleagues from IT, Candace and Siraj, for your support. And I look forward to seeing you at our next meeting. The meeting is then adjourned.